Welcome, everyone. Week 7 is a close. Welcome into Crowded Booth College Football Reaction Show from a loaded Week 7 slate. SEC, Pac-12, which we think is the best conference, and a lot more. We're going to talk about all that and more in tonight's episode here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hi. Ralph, I
Is
completely
this thing on?
audio. I completely lost all audio during that. I had no idea when the song was on.
Oh, Jesus.
But it's okay.
Is this thing on?
This thing's
We're
on.
having a lot of technical difficulties tonight.
Technical difficulties, but hey, we're ready to rock and roll. Absolutely loaded show. We're going to take a look at some of the Week 7's best games. We're going to take a look at some of the storylines coming out of Week 7 and maybe debunk, maybe talk a little bit about that. And then we're also going to go back into our top 4. And just want to shout out before we get started here. Dr. Bob did a fantastic job. He sent me our updated chart, which we all did terrible on this past week, by the way, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing really changed.
Maryland
but,
made the list.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's for sure. So, hey, we're ready to rock and roll. We're excited to talk about it. Welcome in, Ralph Leary, Will Manis. My name is Bryce Koon of the Crowded Booth. If you're in the show, whether it's live or after the fact, we appreciate you watching. And Jonesy is in here first. As you know, he beat
As
Dr. Bob
always.
to the punch. Beat Dr. Bob to the punch tonight. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's kick it off with an SEC game right in my backyard. Will and I previewed this one on
I thought
Friday
you said
morning.
we were doing Week 7's best games.
For one
That's what you
team,
said.
for
That's what you
one
said.
team,
Yep.
it is one of the best games. And look at
Bryce
one
is a liar.
of the early comments. Will, they're ready. They're ready for you. LSU punishes Auburn in dominating fashion. You and I are going to take a longer look at this one tomorrow. Jonesy is welcome. But let's walk through this. Peyton, the good. Here's the good. Peyton Thorne eclipses
No,
100
wrong,
yards.
Wrong. You already the good? No. Peyton Thorne, no good. No good. I'm back off the Peyton Thorne. I'm back on
Just go to him. Let's just go to
blaming
him.
Peyton
I
Thorne.
got you.
Oh, we're monologuing? Okay.
Yeah, just
already.
go. Just
All you,
monologue.
bud.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I gave Peyton Thorne a ton of credit after that Georgia game because he played really well. It's the best game he's played in an Auburn uniform. I thought he had turned a corner. Could not have been more wrong. The offense did not look good with him at quarterback, which is not a surprise because this team can't throw the football. Auburn finally throws for 100 yards in a Power 5 games, first time since last season. I don't even know which game it was. I try to not remember last season, at least the first 8 games of it. This is a running team. This is a running football team, and it doesn't work when Peyton Thorne's in there. Offense looked much better with Robbie Ashford. Robbie Ashford even threw a touchdown in this game. From the Auburn perspective, there's a lot of – I'm going to read some names and stats, and if these guys are leading categories for Auburn, it's probably not a good game. True freshman Jeremiah Cobb. Love Jeremiah Cobb. I think he's going to be a great Auburn running back, but he's just a true freshman. Led the team in carries and rushing yards. 10 carries for 69 yards. No matter who it is.
Nice.
Nice. If your leading rusher has 69 yards, you're probably not going to beat anybody.
Yeah.
Brandon Frazier was the leading receiver, 3 catches for 52 yards and had that touchdown. Brandon Frazier, he's never. I think he may have tied his career total in catches in this
Will.
game.
Well, I got your stat for you. The last time they threw over 100 yards against the SEC team, Arkansas last year, Robbie Ashford threw for 285.
Yeah, and there's people that say he can't throw. Rivaldo Fairweather, again, a non-factor. 1 catch for 8 yards. He had 4 targets. He's got to get the ball more. Camden Brown had 2 catches for 27 yards. Those were on back-to-back plays, by the way, in the second quarter. A couple RPOs. Those are probably the 2 best plays that Auburn's ran all year offensively. They ran them 2 times in a row, and they didn't run it again the rest of the game. I don't know who to blame for that. This offense has a lot of problems, but here's the thing. We knew Auburn was going to have a lot of problems offensively this season. No matter all the new names and new faces Hugh Freeze brought in, it still was not going to be up to par. And it wasn't. This LSU offense is on a historical pace, and they kept that going. So we knew this game was going to be tough. But, I mean, Auburn looked defeated in the first quarter. It was 17-0 after the first quarter, and the game was over. That is a really good – that's a good debate. Would Jeff Sims be better than Peyton Thorne? That is a really good debate.
No.
That's how bad Peyton Thorne has been. But, I didn't expect Auburn to get beat by 30. That's embarrassing at any time and no matter how bad Auburn is, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
There was, like I said, there's not a lot of good if you're Auburn coming out of this.
Yeah, on the LSU side of things, you mentioned the historic pace, what they've been able to do. I mean, offensively, I talked about this in the post-game wrap-up where it's been Malik Neighbors, it's been Brian Thomas, and then Auburn said, we're going to let another wide receiver shine, Kyron Lacey, who's just been kind of non-existent this year. It's really getting to the point now where I don't know how you defend this LSU offense. We're going to talk about that, in the coming weeks. They're good.
Auburn defended Brian Thomas.
Yeah, there's just 17 other targets they can go to. Logan Diggs had 97 yards, averaged 5.4 a pop. I will say this, Jaden Daniels, the strides he has made. If this kid's not in New York, I mean, he is just unbelievable. You go back and watch some of the progressions, the reads that he made, and you just got to kind of hand it to him. I thought they did a good job.
Jaden Daniels, I think he'll be in New York now because he got some help from Vanderbilt this weekend. Unfortunately,
he did.
But
Notre Dame.
Yeah, and Notre Dame. So that may put Jaden Daniels in New York. I don't think he'll win it, but man, he deserves the recognition, no doubt.
No, he deserves recognition. He goes 20, 27, 325. He had the interception, which once again, and I tweeted it out during the game, Jalen Simpson just continuing to make plays. Didn't get the pick, but he caused the tip up, and then it was obviously intercepted.
I said it in our preview show. Auburn's got some NFL caliber players in the secondary. So they can make plays. Jalen Simpson, no doubt. That's exactly right. War Eagle anyways, exactly. Auburn's got NFL players in secondary. DJ James, Jalen Simpson for sure. I think Nehemiah Pritchett will make an NFL roster. Not sure if he'll get drafted, but I think he's an NFL caliber player. And those three, they're gonna be gone from the secondary next year. So,
yeah,
I think somebody asked me earlier today how I think Auburn's going to be next year. I said maybe not too much better. Maybe one win.
I think it was me. I think it was me. I think I asked you.
I think it was you.
I think we're missing one though. Will, you got to realize you got to give some props to Eugene Asante. I mean, we've been talking about him all year. He's balling out right now. He's probably the backbone to that defense right now.
Led the team in tackles. We also had a big sack on Jaden Daniels. Look, all of these things about Auburn. Let's from the LSU perspective. LSU needed to do this against an SEC caliber team. We saw they had done it against Mississippi State, but I think the big storyline for me was defensively. It was something where, I mentioned my matchup to watch in this game was the Auburn receivers against the LSU defensive backs. I think LSU left feeling a little bit more comfortable with a guy like Zy Alexander. And look, Auburn's receiver room, they missed on a lot of the guys. They went and get the portal. But look, when you go to the portal for as large of a haul as both of these teams did. LSU missed on obviously some in their defensive secondary. I think Auburn has missed some. The success rate's not going to be sky high. These guys are in the portal for a reason. So, that being said, Frazier, Jay Fair, I knew things were going to be interesting when Jay Fair and Camden Brown ran out of the Auburn tunnel, which is on the other side of the stadium. They come across Auburn tunnel. Sometimes guys have their headphones in. They'll do the walk down. Like everybody does that. And LSU student section is already getting hyped. Like neck has been played a little once already.
This on Saturday to not tell me things I don't want to hear.
At this point, when they come over there and Jay Fair is like asking the crowd to get loud, and it started getting really, really loud. Now it was nuts. It was the best atmosphere, obviously, fans said they've seen since the Alabama game last year. A big part of that was LSU was hosting some of the biggest recruits in the country, including 2025 number one quarterback Bryce Underwood. This is a lot of big things right there. Jonesy says bowl game and Troy drags Auburn in the Birmingham Bowl.
Agree.
Can't wait to be there. That would be we're going to that one if that's happening.
Jeez.
All of those things being said, LSU's continuing to find a lot of different things. True freshman running back Caleb Jackson is a monster. I don't know. This is the same kid, and I know we've kind of talked about this. Jackson is the guy who shoved that guy, ran that guy over at Mississippi State. The hit that he had against Auburn on in live, it looked way bigger than it was, but he had the kick return that he almost took back for a touchdown. LSU is going places. LSU
Joe Tessitore was really fired up. He said he ran over the Auburn guy.
The guy kind of, I don't know who it was. He kind of slipped. He kind of slipped.
He was trying to tackle him low. I mean, like if you're running somebody over, you're like meeting them like you're like the guy's not trying to tackle you low. He's just trying to wrap you up. That's my opinion.
Well, and Will's obviously on the continued train that that broadcaster hates my team, and that's fine. That's okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It'll be interesting.
But what I do know, and this is the narrative I'm taking away. You just gave it to me. Auburn may only be a 5-win team, but we're still going to be everybody's Super Bowl. So feel good about that. LSU made this their Super Bowl, and they won by 30. Good for them.
Here we go.
Yeah. 48-18, LSU with a big win. The one turnover, LSU averaged 6.1 yards per carry, 8.5 yards per play. They were 6 of 9 on third downs, 563 total yards. The past 5 games, they've gone over 500 yards. You mentioned it, Will. This offense is really starting to pick up some historical relevance when you talk about the 2019 team. The one thing that obviously is going to separate is the fact that Joe Burrow had 60-something touchdowns or 56, can't remember. Daniels is not going to hit that mark.
He had 60 total, I think, that year.
I think 60 total.
56 passing, 4 rushing.
4 rushing, I believe. Yeah. He's not going to hit that, but when you kind of start to talk about what this offense as a whole is doing, it doesn't have the star power of that roster, but man, production-wise, it's going to be very, very interesting. I can't wait to watch it.
He also had 2 very talented receivers that are both doing great things in the NFL, and then a 2 or 3 receiver or 3 and 4 receiver that were just as good and are also doing good things in the NFL, and then has a tight end who was very underrated. So, I mean, LSU's got very talented players, and Jaden Daniels is doing everything he can to get him the ball. Just did you see the text that my uncle just sent you, Bryce?
No, I haven't seen it. It's probably something.
Oh yeah, you'll love it.
While Bryce looks at that, I want to highlight Harold Perkins, who just plays defense for LSU. He plays every position. 4 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a pass breakup. I mean, the guy does it all.
He was it Peyton Thorne that he lit up? I mean, he lit up coming off the edge on that delayed blitz that one time.
It was in the second half. I was pretty much checked out in the second half.
Might be.
Me too, but don't worry. I was there.
A couple comments I want to get to here. This is obviously a big storyline we're going to talk about here later on the show. Can Alabama keep up with LSU in offense?
No,
I don't. I just don't know who's going to stop LSU offensively. I just don't know. Like, I think that you start to look at teams offensively, and we're going to talk about a couple. I think Washington can match it. I think an LSU-Washington game would be unbelievable to watch. It would be a lot of fun. Key to success, appreciate you tuning in. I think LSU is coming to its own handle Alabama about like the Arkansas game this week, but LSU comes out on top. We'll see, obviously, right there as well. Making fun of the haircut. Bryce, the cut like that didn't use no white barber named Scott. It wasn't Scott. It was a lady named Sheila, but that's fine. Will, shout out to Sheila. She just butchered my hair. You want to see something crazy? Said fingertip length. You ready for this? Fingertip length right here. And then we just get back here. We just got what is this? What are we doing back here? What is that?
Did you where'd you go get it? Did you go like a place down there, or did you get like a great
this guy just said, hey, go to this quick cuts or quick clips or whatever the heck it was. And I
went to a great clips one time and I got a fade, so I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's no one wants
to see that. You went to one in Columbus.
Well, it was like
Victory Drive.
No, it was the one next to Dick's over there.
98% of their clientele are
I went there on Christmas
members
Eve.
of our military. Shout out to them.
I didn't know where you were going with that comment.
We're a pro-military, pro-American show, unlike Troy. Just blanking Army. How un-American.
Well, I guess LSU is going to receive that same treatment this weekend. They host Army. So it's going to be.
You think we were bad? We wouldn't be in my 19.
I'm taking the Black Knights.
It's, here we go. This my wife makes me get a 2 all over my haircut, Dr. Bob. Let's roll to the next game. Let's talk. But LSU, obviously a big win and kind of setting itself up to control its destiny. Don't count them out just yet, obviously, when you look at what they have going forward to as well. Tennessee survives in a battle with Texas A&M, guys. This was an interesting one. We're going to talk about a storyline coming out, so I don't want to necessarily touch on that. I think Tennessee still has a long way to go in consistency-wise. Ralph, we'll start off with you in this one. Aggies, Volunteers, your thoughts?
Well, I didn't get to watch the game, so I hadn't really got to watch much of anything on Saturday except for Auburn game on.
That's why I told you to quit your job so you could focus on what really matters. But anyways, keep going. That $500,000 loan we're still looking to get.
But look, I'm just going to go off some of the stat lines. I think Max Johnson didn't play his best game. Tennessee obviously showed up for once, I feel like, defensively. The consistency is not there. Running the ball, they look like actually ran the ball for the first time the best all year long. Jalen Wright obviously played a great game. I'm not looking at the comments right now.
Just go ahead.
But yeah, this is an A&M team that we thought was going to be, competitive this year all year long. Maybe beat Bama at home and carry that momentum going forward. And I don't think they did very well. Obviously they lost to Bama. Probably still should have won against Bama, and then carry that to Tennessee. And I have a lot of friends who are Tennessee fans, and they were saying A&M's going to boat race us. It's going to be ugly. And they were there, and they actually, they're actually pleased with how they played, which, it is what it is. They almost got shot that night too, though. So yeah, that's another story.
I don't know that.
I don't know if that needed to be said.
Well, I'm just saying it's not safe out in Knoxville when they win. Okay, let's go ahead and say that right now.
They weren't wearing maroon, right?
No, they'd be okay Tennessee wearing fans.
Orange. Yeah, I figured they'd be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Where we're going with this? Where are we going with this?
We go so many different ways, Bryce. But my thing going forward is, can Tennessee stay consistent? You got Georgia in a few weeks. You're at Georgia, if I'm correct, or is it at
no? Tennessee? You host Georgia.
You host Georgia. You hope to God you get them on the week without Brock Bowers, because if you can,
and they will.
They will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's not. We're going to talk about that, but yeah, they will. He's not going to play.
So this is the Tennessee team. You ride high on this one, but you got to be ready for the next few weeks. You still got some good games left to play.
Yeah, Tennessee. Look, I'm pulling up their schedule right now. Will, you go ahead. What were your thoughts on this game while I get ready to look at the schedule?
I think this game, a lot of this game, you got to give a lot of credit to the Tennessee fans for showing up and showing out. I mean, the home field advantage is so big in college football. I think that was a huge difference in this game, really being that 12th man and really pushing them forward. This is a different Tennessee team than we're used to seeing, that we didn't see under Josh Heupel last year, for sure. I mean, Joe Milton only threw for 100 yards. I mean, this is a running football team. Jalen Wright 139 yards on 19 carries. And we talked about how good this Texas A&M front is. They did not have an answer. I mean, Tennessee really just out-physicaled them on both lines of scrimmage. Tennessee wanted this game. I think that has the fans, the 12th man, had a lot to do with that. But, this Tennessee team, they're not – I don't think that they're going to beat Georgia. I think this is their marquee win, their big win on the season. I just think too much inconsistency, especially with Joe Milton. He had that interception, I think it was the fourth quarter, where he just stared down the receiver and still threw it into double coverage. I mean, he just –
I was watching Desmond Ridder yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Milton can't get him over the top, but, I mean, this is a really big win for Tennessee. It's a great home win for them. It's going to really help them keep this momentum that Heupel started last year and keep it rolling. I mean, no matter how this season ends, you got a win against Texas A&M, as talented as they are, you're going to be proud of it.
Yeah, they're going to face Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That's going to have to be a really, really hard one to win. Revenge factor, which is I mentioned this. Alabama has the benefit of 2 revenge games this year. They're going to get at home. This one against Tennessee and then a couple weeks against LSU. You often don't catch a Nick Saban team looking for revenge and getting you at home. You just don't see that a lot. So I think that's going to be very interesting.
We'll talk about this on Thursday, but big question coming into that one. Can Tennessee get off the mat again and do it 2 weeks in a row? Can they do it?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, I like this Tennessee team. You talked about the ability to run the football. I continue to say that Squirrel White has to be a big part of their offense as well. We're going to talk about that, later this week. But I don't know. You just look all together. I mean, Squirrel White's had 3 catches, 29 yards. The 100 yards passing, they had 11 different receptions. They had 11 receptions. 5 different guys catch those balls. So I just think altogether, Milton added 50 yards on the ground. He's a big-bodied guy. We'll see. But I think, like you said, Will, this is a big win for them. Not a marquee win. They needed this one because, look, we can joke, people can joke and have their, takes on social media, but Tennessee still controls, its own destiny. I mean, in the sense of, if Florida loses to Georgia, that game against Georgia late in the season could be another de facto SEC East title game. And who knows what's going to happen. Still a lot of football left to be played, even though we're over that halfway mark.
We got to talk about this Tennessee defense too. I mean,
they were
played really, really good. I mean, this is a complete 180 from what we've seen from Josh Heupel, even when he was at UCF. This is a ball control defense. They're just going to wear you down type of team. And I hope Sam is watching because I've joked with him for 2 years about Kamal Hadden transfer from Auburn. Dude couldn't get on the field at Auburn, and he's turned into the number one corner at Tennessee. I don't know if that's Willie Martinez working his magic or what, but Kamal Hadden had a really good game. He was on Evan Stewart a lot of the game, held him to 4 catches. But that defense as a whole, they play well as a unit. They got after Max Johnson. I mean, I don't know that he had a clean pocket for the majority of that game. He had somebody coming at him almost every play.
Yeah, and look, the guy's just he's not a dynamic playmaker. He is a really good quarterback in the sense of delivering the ball, game manager. It's going to be really interesting. Another guy that stood out on that secondary to me was Wesley Walker Jr., former Georgia Tech defensive back that made the transfer up there a couple years ago. He's really good. He had 3 total tackles in this game, a couple pass breakups as well. I mean, they're playing much better than I think people anticipated them to be able to play. And look, we're going to talk about Jimbo here, in the next segment. More on that A&M side of things later. Let's move on to the next game here as we keep it rocking and rolling. Missouri mounts comeback to hand Kentucky second straight lost, and I can't spell lost, but that's fine. Yeah, well, I'll change it, Ralph.
I got it.
You got it. Let's talk about this game. Missouri was down in this game, and they mount a comeback. Kentucky, I talked about their home atmosphere, but this was a chance. And we talked about this going into the week. If you wanted to kind of keep up in the SEC race, you had to win this game. Mm-hmm. And Missouri answered the bell. I mean, guys, what they're able to do offensively at times is just really, really, really fun to watch. I mean, Theo Wees, 6 catches, 58 yards for a touchdown. Luther Burden just had 2 catches for 15 yards. So what did they show me? They can win a game where Brady Cook doesn't throw for over 200 yards. He has under 70% completion percentage. He throws interception. He's thrown 3 picks in the last 2 games, and they're 1-1 in those. So, Will, we'll start with you. I know you said this game was obviously a little boring in the sense, but Kentucky has Ray Davis, who emerged once again in this game. But, man, they could not find an answer. Outscored 21-7 in the second half.
Yeah, Kentucky, they ran out to a 14-0 lead. I was just really watching the score on the bottom line and the studio updates. I was like, oh, well, that game's over. Kentucky at home at night, up 2 touchdowns. This you can pretty much
inside the house that Kroger built. Yeah,
yeah, Kroger Field. But man, your boy Devin Leary had a bad game again. 2 interceptions, just 120 passing yards. He is not adjusted to life in the SEC, and I think that just shows the depth. I mean, if you want to compare the SEC and ACC, just look at Devin Leary. I mean, Look at the gap between the conferences. That dude was maybe the best quarterback in the ACC, and he comes to the SEC, and he's pedestrian at best. But, Ray Davis, they ran the ball well, 128 yards. Like you said, this Missouri team showed us a lot. They're a very versatile team. They run the ball well, too. Schrader's a really good running back, had 71 yards and a touchdown, 20 carries. A bell cow back there for sure. I've really been impressed with the program Eli Drinkwitz has built at Missouri. Yeah. To go on the road to Kentucky, how Kentucky is now, you couldn't have said this 5 years ago, but you go to Kentucky and get a win, you got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and I think, too, you look at what Missouri, how efficient they are, 6 for 6 in the red zone. Ralph, once again, it was a night where not a lot of different things were clicking for them, but, man, they just found a way to make those momentum-shifting plays. You got to give a team credit, like Will said, going on the road in what can be a tough environment and just finding a way to make it happen. It's what you have to do. Now Missouri's bowl eligible. That was something that I don't know if a lot of us thought coming into the season they would be, but Drinkwitz has all but quieted any concerns about his job. And look, seems to have Missouri on a nice little trajectory, especially entering a pivotal 2024 season where the SEC is going to get it even stronger.
Yeah, and I think when you go into like a hostile environment as Kentucky, it starts with your defense, really. You need to shut them down early, make some plays. And I think Darius Robinson had a great job. He had 2.5 sacks, or 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for a loss. Just setting the tone early, playing it, at the level of high level of football, just showing up, doing what you can, and then when you slow your offense down, you get the fans quiet. You let your offense work. Brady Cook obviously did what he needed to do. Doesn't have the greatest game in the world, but he does just enough to get them in the win. They actually they ran the ball very well as a team. He just did just enough throwing the ball very well. So Missouri going forward, this is looking good. You're bowl eligible. You have a chance. You still have Georgia on that list there. You only losses to LSU, who is, right now to me, the front runner in the SEC West. Sorry, it's just the SEC West right now. And what do you do from here on out? Do you just say, okay, we're bowl eligible, we're just going to play mellow football here, or we're going to go out there and try to beat some more teams and try to make a run for the top for the SEC championship? This is where you need to find out who you truly want to be and where you want to be at in December. So the next few weeks really are going to be deciding what Missouri really is this year.
And to add on to that, what you just said, they're going to play South Carolina at home, which is going to be a big deal for them. It's an afternoon game. But then they're going to get a bye week before they head to Athens. That's huge. And look, they got to go down there. That's not going to be easy. Georgia fans don't have a great home slate to choose from games. They're going to get up for that game. The fans are going to be rocking in Athens for that one. But, man, if you can find a way, especially with some of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later about this Georgia team not having, it's going to be very interesting. I'm just excited to watch. That's also going to be a Georgia team that's coming off what I think is going to be a physical football game down in Jacksonville against Florida. So who knows? I mean, you want chaos. Missouri controls their own destiny in the SEC East, and I think right now you have to consider this season a plus in my mind of what Eli Drinkwitz has been able to do. Will, your thoughts?
I'm looking at the drive chart right here, and I really like how Missouri finished this game. Fourth quarter, looking at Kentucky's. Kentucky had 3 drives in the fourth quarter. Interception, turnover on downs. And Missouri's defense held on and finished this game because their offense, they finished a drive in the fourth quarter with a touchdown early and then kicked a field goal with 3:17 left. So it was really on the Missouri defense to close this game out. Drinkwitz has done great on both sides of the ball, recruiting and developing. I mean, I think they're coming into their own and being a complete team.
Yeah, I like the way Missouri's played, and obviously we're going to know once they get to the month of October and that first weekend in November when they head down to Athens. We're taking a step outside the SEC now. We head over to the ACC where, look, guys, there was a lot of question marks about how Miami was going to respond. Give them credit. They put up 31 points. This was a really good football game. But what stands out to me is North Carolina's offense and the kind of re-addition of Tez Walker, the reintroduction back into this offense for him. Man, I don't know. I know we got Georgia Tech fans in here, and they're going to say, it doesn't matter. We beat him with Josh Downs, who's a good receiver. We beat him with Sam Howell, and I get that. But I think for what we're talking about here 7 weeks through the season, North Carolina is establishing themselves as a dark horse candidate to be in the conversation at the end of the season. I mean, they've done exactly what they've needed to do, and they beat a Miami team. They took care of business. And look, Miami, for all the craziness that Miami went through last week, they're still a talented team on paper. They still have some NFL talent around. But I don't know. I was impressed with how Miami responded, but I think I'm really impressed with the way North Carolina is continuing to trend, especially at this juncture in the season, because it's a team that's also known, and we'll see in a couple weeks, that's also known for losing games they shouldn't be losing. And right now, they took care of business on a weekend. Ralph, your thoughts on North Carolina's performance?
Yeah, I think I texted you during the game. I said, man, dude, Tez Walker is going off right now. I mean, he's having – it was great to see him bounce back and actually get
6 catches, 132, 3 touchdowns. Nuts.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's your reintroduction back to college football after that. But like I said it last week, Amarian Hampton's got to get going. Let him do a lot of work. Let all that weight get off Drake May's shoulders. Let him play. Let him just do enough to win the game. And Hampton, 24 carries, 197 and a touchdown, and he had a receiving touchdown. So, you let Drake May get a little weight off his shoulders. Let him just play his game. He's got one of the, a super talented receiver. And I think a lot of people knew how good he really was, but didn't get to see it last year. So to be able to see it on Saturday night was awesome. I was really excited to watch a lot of that game. But going forward, North Carolina, they control everything they want to do here. This is a team that if they want to be there in the playoffs, they can do everything they can. Do not let some team just walk in there and beat you when you're not looking. Don't overlook anybody. We saw Miami overlook Tech. We saw they overlooked App State early on the season. They almost lost that game. So control what you can. Win your games when you need to. Do not let some team just sneak up behind you and beat you. This is a team that has lost big games, and can lose games they shouldn't lose. So if you control where you go, where you want to go, you got this. I mean, this is a very good team.
You mentioned letting Drake May do what he needs to do. This is about as balanced as you can be offensively. 273 through the air, 235 on the ground. To me,
you took the words out of my mouth, Bryce.
Yeah, to me.
Pause.
To me, in this sense, UNC has been a team that I don't think has ever really found the balance since Mac Brown's been there, and especially when you talk about offense and defense. But, man, when they have their – and that's a fair point there, not about Mac Brown, so UNC's head coach, I expect to slip up. And that's – I'm going to walk through the rest of the schedule here in just a second. I'm just – you did all that. You got to clean up penalties. 14 for 147 in this game. That was a little concerning.
Another note I had.
Yeah, I'll go through the schedule and I'll hand it off to you.
That's been the theme of every game we've looked at. The home team had more penalties than the road team.
It's weird. It's weird.
It's a weird weekend.
North Carolina is going to host Virginia this weekend in Chapel Hill. Virginia is a borderline, FCS program, it feels like at this point. They're just pitiful. And that's on the CW, so 3 people will be watching that. Georgia Tech, they're going to Georgia Tech on October 28th. That's going to be Tech's homecoming. Yeah, well, the thing is Tech's beaten them the past 2 years, and so it's Tech's homecoming. Well, as long as they don't wear the Adidas jerseys, they'll be fine. Those black jerseys, they'll be all right. They play Campbell, the Fighting Camels, after that. And then they end the season, which is going to be the North Carolina Duke game, which will be great, and then at Clemson. And then if they get there,
right?
I saw Dr. Bob put something in there about, and we're going to get to that in a second.
4 to 5 weeks for him too. He had almost the same procedure that Brock Bowers had about 2 weeks ago.
That tightrope ankle surgery, yeah.
Yeah, and he should be back for that game.
Medical expert Dr. Bob.
No, he's still an intern because he's unpaid. So,
so are we all interns?
Yeah, that's fine. They're going to play Duke at home, and then they're going to go to Clemson, and then you would figure if they can take care of business, they'll probably play a Florida State team in the ACC title game. I don't know, guys. I really, really, really like where North Carolina's trending. Look, a lot of people are going to buy the stock. A lot of people are going to be excited about it. And Dr. Bob does confirm Leonard will be back then. Or should be. I shouldn't say he confirms that. There's no way he has any. Honestly, Dr. Bob goes – Dr. Bob says high ankle sprain with a tightrope procedure is 4 to 6 weeks. It's why Riley Leonard won't play this week against FSU unless the sprain wasn't really a high ankle. Take it from me. I'm a doctor. That being said, love North Carolina. Let's rock and roll to the next game. And I think we have 2 more. We're stepping once again out of the ACC. We're going to the Pac-12, which on the record, we've got it out there. Ralph had a comment a couple years ago that the Big Ten was the worst conference in college basketball. They ended up dominating in the tournament that year, which was hilarious. Ralph once again has put his stamp of approval on the fact that the ACC is better than the Pac-12.
No.
And that's okay. This is in college football. That being said,
that was 2020 season, wasn't it?
I don't remember what it was. I
think it was.
I don't want to say it was like I said Illinois wasn't nearly as good, and they were defeated.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
But who won the tournament that year? Not a Big Ten team.
Oh my! I don't even know who won it because I don't care. The Washington outlast. Well, we're not going to have that guest on ever again. That's all I know. Washington outlast Oregon in an instant classic, guys. This might have been the best game of the year. It's going to be really, really, really hard to top this one. Will, I want to start with you. A lot of people questioning Dan Lanning's calls. Lanning owned up to, a couple of those calls in his post-game presser. To me, this one just seems as somebody had to win it. Like these are still 2. I don't leave anything with Oregon thinking they're not as good as I thought they were. I think both of these teams are super good. And Washington's just the one that maybe took round 1. We'll see if round 2 happens. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I really hope there's a round 2. I didn't learn much from this game. It was about what I expected, 3-point spread, and it ends a 3-point difference. Oregon, based on the numbers, should have won this game if Dan Lanning takes the points, if his kicker makes the field goals. But I don't have any problem with being aggressive. Washington, Kalen DeBoer, he was just as aggressive. Both went for 4th down 3 times. Washington got 2 out of 3. Oregon got none. But Oregon, 541 total yards. Bo Nix throws for 337. They run for 204. Really balanced. This team's really good. I'm disappointed because I've been on Oregon all year. Said Bo Nix was going to win the Heisman Trophy. This probably knocks him out, puts Michael Penix in the driver's seat, especially with Caleb Williams, and we'll talk about that more later. But man, this was fun. This was as advertised. This is what you want on Saturdays. Gaudy numbers from everybody. I said 337 for Bo Nix, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Michael Penix, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Bucky Irving, 127 yards on the ground, running for a touchdown. Troy Franklin, 154 yards receiving. Rome Odunze, 8 catches, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He is a monster.
If you didn't know who he was before this one, you know now. I mean, he looks like
he made. I
saw he's looking like
Cal a few weeks ago. That was crazy. That's the one you need to go watch. That one. He has like a toe tap just in the corner, just like there's no way he caught that. And then they reviewed it, and it is crazy.
Rome Odunze he's looking like a first round pick, no doubt about it. With more hype, he could be the number 1 receiver taken. He obviously doesn't have the hype or the name power Marvin Harrison Jr. does, but Marvin Harrison hasn't been too great this year. Jalen Polk, 118 receiving yards. Gaudy. Dylan Johnson ran for 100 yards for Washington. I mean, just really fun game, back and forth. Like I say, I don't have a problem with Lanning being aggressive on 4th downs when you're going up against a good team, a really good team like Washington, really good offense on the road. You got to score touchdowns to win the game. You're going to lose by kicking field goals against an offense that good. May not have happened in this one if his kicker makes those kicks. But
agreed.
I mean, Oregon was really good on 3rd down, so you felt good about them going for it on 4th down. They were 10 of 16 on 3rd downs. You just reading all these numbers, you would have thought Oregon won the game if you didn't see the score. So, nothing really changes in my mind between these two teams except Washington goes above Oregon for me, just because I had Oregon slightly ahead of Washington, but so much fun. I mean, I wish I'm really hoping for a round 2.
Oh yeah, a little neutral fight round 2 would be great
in Vegas. That'd be a lot of fun
at the home of UNLV. Yeah, that'd be a ton of fun. Ralph, I'm not trying to correct you here, but I did want to just to show off how crazy this is. Luther Burden's not draft eligible. He is a true sophomore. That's how crazy good this kid is about to be. It's kind of nuts to think about.
I thought he was until last of 2021, and
no, he's 2022 guy. That's what's it's nuts. Wow. It's crazy to think about. Like,
he's so good too.
Number 1 receiver next year. That's a valid argument with what he can do.
Absolutely.
Wanted to throw this before I throw it over to you, Ralph. You mentioned Will Rome Odunze. You kind of took this game, and ran with it here. I think just overall, I think these two teams should be in the top 5. I just think so. They're just really, really good football teams. And Washington, man, the job that Kalen DeBoer has done there in such a short amount of time. You talk about a program in Washington that's in a good market, but it's not necessarily, I would say, it's not a traditional power. It's
not really a college football market.
No, it's not really a college football. Obviously, big NFL market,
college football destination.
And if we're honest with ourselves, Washington was kind of wandering after, Chris Peterson decided to kind of hang it up. So where did they go? And man, they hit on this. I mean, Kalen DeBoer has done a fantastic job. And I think it's a team that's positioning itself really, really well when it talks about the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten loved this. Like, let's just get the folks that signed these media deals absolutely loved watching this game because the revenue that's going to come in, obviously, off of these two teams. And it's great. Ralph, any kind of closing thoughts on this matchup?
Look, I mean, I know Will and I have both been, high on these quarterbacks all year long, and I've been with him on Bo Nix and Oregon, honestly, just as much as I have in Washington. And this matchup was the one that, we'll decide who was better. But I want to see round 2, though. I truly do. I think round 2 would be a lot better game. I think overall, home field advantage plays a lot in college football. It truly does. I know a lot of people say, well, home field advantage doesn't play enough in NFL. I'm like, well, it's NFL. No fans are really that passionate. You go to college, though. College fans are crazy.
Ralph, you've got to be careful with these takes, buddy.
Well, I do not care about the Chiefs fans right now.
Well, okay. I will say that it doesn't compare. It doesn't. NFL does not compare.
I'll say this:
certain teams,
87,000 in Jordan Hare is a lot more exciting to be around than 70 or 95,000 in Arrowhead. I'll say that right now. But look, I know that's a hot take, but let's be honest here. Auburn's a lot more fun to be around in their football season, in my opinion.
Auburn's a lot more fun to be around when they're 5-7 than the Miami Dolphins are when they're 10-2. I agree.
But so
or whatever's going on in Atlanta.
I don't want to talk about
that. But yeah, look, Bo Nix, he did not play a bad game. And I saw someone say that Bo Nix didn't do enough in this game. That's a terrible take. Bo Nix played a great game. He did everything he could do against a very good Washington team. This is not a terrible Washington team. This is a team that, we throw it back to like when they had Jake Browning at quarterback and they were in the playoffs. They were they were like, everyone thought they're just a little, went and played Alabama first round, got blown out. This is not the same Washington team we saw that year. This is a completely different team with a high-powered offense who can throw the ball, and they're going to win games. They're not going to get blown out. I mean, I said that about a few weeks ago. I said Washington State's going to be a high-scoring game in the season. I completely disagree with that now because Washington State's terrible. But going forward, Washington, they're going to be there in Vegas at the end of the season. They're probably going to see Oregon again. I don't think USC can even stop Oregon at this point after what I watched on Saturday. But I just want to say one thing. Shout out to Tez Johnson, former Troy Trojan. They're catching passes from his stepbrother, Bo Nix. It's great to see that those two play with each other. It really is.
Yeah, Tez Johnson, 7 catches, 71 yards. I mean, this matchup was amazing. Let's move on to the next game because I know we got some comments. Go ahead.
One more nugget. What the heck did Desmond Howard say on game day? If you didn't see it, I'll probably put it in. I'll put it in the Discord. Shout out Discord. Jump in the Discord if you want to see whatever Desmond Howard was chanting.
I don't know what he did. To say.
I'll show you later. We don't have time for that.
Last game we're going to talk about here tonight. Notre Dame dominates USC in front of the home crowd. Let's just cut to the chase here. We thought it was going to be a weather thing. I think the weather was absolutely perfect. Notre Dame still dominated. I mean, Audric Estime is just a mountain of a man and just running through people. Notre Dame, though, I don't know because I haven't looked at the film like a lot. Essentially, I watched the game a lot. I don't know if Notre Dame was just disguising stuff so well. I do want to give credit to Marcus Freeman because when you have people are going to take two different things. They're going to say, well, Caleb Williams actually sucks. And now you see what happens when they play a real team. That's not true. Caleb Williams is very, very good. I do want to give credit to the fact that Marcus Freeman them obviously did something that surprised Caleb Williams and threw him off and disguised different things. This Notre Dame defense, it shows you why I think that they're going to be just fine with Marcus Freeman. And I will say this too. I think they have an opportunity to reach better heights than they did with Brian Kelly. I think Marcus Freeman can win a national title at Notre Dame, just from a recruiting perspective, with the idea of the transfer portal and where we are in college football compared to where Kelly was. I think
somebody clip that and send it to Brian Kelly, so Bryce can answer that this week.
He doesn't know who Bryce is.
Dude, he's not like Butch Jones, who made a comment about Tennessee losing to Florida at his Arkansas State press conference. Meanwhile, that man's crying on the sidelines. No, champion of life. Anyways, that's my take on this game real quickly because we got a lot of stuff to get to here. Notre Dame dominates the crowd. Sam Hartman's really, really good quarterback. Notre Dame's a solid football team. They just have had a brutal stretch of games. Will, real quick.
Yeah. Story of the game, the running game for Notre Dame, 125 yards on the ground, 4 yards a carry, less than 3 for USC, and turnovers and penalties for USC. 9 penalties, 75 yards for USC, 3 picks for Caleb Williams, and they lost 2 fumbles. I mean, if you create turnovers and you don't turn the ball over, easy recipe. That's what Notre Dame did.
Yeah, and real quick, Ralph, as we go back to you on this one, Sam Hartman just had 126 yards passing the ball. I mean, but they just played great defense, and they just took advantage of mistakes. Real quick, Ralph.
Yeah, I got to watch a lot of this game. I texted Bryce and said Notre Dame's exposing USC for once. This is a team, a defensive-minded coach. That's what it is. Yeah. He knows how to face these kind of quarterbacks. He did it for so many years under Kelly as a DC. He's doing a great job here right now. They're only going to get better. That's the thing. Notre Dame's only going to get better because Marcus Freeman's a great coach. He's going to recruit really well, and they're going to get very good team in the next few years. So, yeah, That's all I got to say about that one.
I have no clue how to pronounce this. Okay. But the trophy.
Shalala.
The Shalala trophy?
I think that's how you pronounce it.
I was going to say the Shalalaga, but it is what it is. The Shalala trophy. Guys, that trophy's amazing. That's one of the really, really good trophies in college football. I remember playing for it on NCAA 07 because they'd actually show cool graphics. But anyways, that's all we got to talk about that. Let's take a quick commercial break because we got a lot to wrap through here. We're going to talk about storylines, and we're going to get to our top 4 to round out tonight's show. Hey, you're watching The Crowded Booth. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey everyone, Bryce Koon here with The Crowded Booth, and I'm excited to partner with Milton and Drew McCluskey as they get on their new venture, the Cajun Cousins Company. It's an all-stop shop for some of the best food and atmosphere entertainment that you're going to be able to have, especially this fall as college football is right around the corner. What is Cajun Cousins Company? Well, Milt decided to start this business back in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where they're based out of. Drew initially joined him after spending some time with the Saints, but they offer catered Cajun delicacies such as crawfish boils and Aunt Dottie's jambalaya. They bring everything and they can set up anywhere. Look, folks, they're passionate about giving people a reason to gather and to get to the culture that they love so much. They're expanding that brand to the low country of South Carolina, the upstate area, and other areas of the Southeast. So look, if you're going to throw that tailgate party or you're going to have a big gathering, reach out to Cajun Cousins Company today over at CajunCousinsCO.com to get that quote. Tell them The Crowded Booth sent you. We can't wait to see what they have in store this fall. Back here at The Crowded Booth, thanks so much for Cajun Cousins sponsoring the show. Make sure to contact them for any catering needs, whether it's all across the Southeast or you're located close to South Carolina. They'll come anywhere, and they have a good time. We appreciate them. Let's talk storylines. Let's talk about this because we're going to go over our hour time limit. That's absolutely okay, though. Is Jimbo Fisher on the hot seat? Guys, this is a legitimate question. I don't know what the buyout number is specifically at right now.
Was it $10 million last year?
$10 million. It was $7. It was $100 and something million last year.
If it was 10, they would have fired him.
If there was $10 million, they would have fired him.
Well, my bad.
It's like 70 something million, I believe. Like it's a big chunk of change. I need to see what it is.
Okay, I'm pulling it up.
You pull it up. It's gonna be very, very interesting here. The Shillelagh. Okay, yeah, that's what Trevor appreciate, not Rob. Anyways, Ralph, I'll go. Will's gonna talk about this. You look at Texas A&M's schedule the rest of the way. Okay, man, I don't know. Like I think that there is going. I think the expectations over there are way too high. So they might.
76.8.
76.8.
I was going to let Bryce finish talking, but okay.
Oh, apologies.
That's fine. Look, is he on the hot seat? Like let's talk about this because Fisher has underperformed, no doubt about it. Now, I think that too there has been signs of the ability to have a cognitive offense, have a offense that can move the football. Will, we've mentioned they've built a really stellar defensive line talent-wise. It's just getting the talent out of these kids and getting that to transition to the college level. So, Will, we'll start with you in this. Is Jimbo Fisher on the hot seat, and could we see his tenure in College Station end this year as we kind of sit a little over the halfway mark of this 2023 season?
Is he on the hot seat? The easy answer is yes, but I don't think he gets fired after this season because I don't think they're going to shell out $76.8 million to tell him to get out of town. Jimbo Fisher, I mean, I could go on for a whole hour talking about Jimbo Fisher and how he's the most overrated college football coach in the country. The guy pushed a legend out, one of the best coaches of all time, Bobby Bowden, pushed him out of Florida State and won a championship with mostly Bobby Bowden players, or he rode the coattails of Bobby Bowden at the very least, to that national championship, did nothing after that, and goes to Texas A&M, buys the best recruiting class, and has done nothing. His best year was the COVID year, so put an asterisk on it. Jimbo Fisher he's not a good head coach. I mean, he's a guy that I think everybody takes joy in beating. Jonesy said it best. He looks like a guy you just want to slap. He's exactly right. And he's built a staff, at least this year, that you want to slap as well. Texas A&M, I think they're going to stick with him. I think he is on the hot seat, but he's not going to go anywhere. And I think he seems to have the personality because he's got the track record. He did this at Florida State. He's just going to ride out that money. They said, if you want to fire me, pay me. Same thing Brian Harsin did at Auburn. Like he's going to make them fire him and pay him all that money. It was a $94 million contract, fully guaranteed. You know, I don't really have a problem with that because they committed the money to him and it's signed, it's on paper. But you know, the guy's going to get his money. Props to him. I wish I could have $94 million guaranteed to me. I would write it out too because I knew I was going to get paid. And it's funny that Jonesy said that because I saw from the great Twitter account Message Board Geniuses some screenshots from Texas A&M's message boards. Somebody put that exact thing on the message board. They said, can we get Mel Tucker's girlfriend to call Jimbo?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Here's how this kind of works. We talk about the buyout situation. Unlike a ton of buyouts, this is guaranteed no matter how much you go down. So, you know, the percentage owed is not going to decline. At any point, it is 100% of the remaining. So I'll push back on this, whether or not, they're willing to pay it. They're going to have to pay it at some point, whether he is as the head coach or whether he is not. Now, the question is going to be, can they stomach doing that while still having to go get a coach and pay him as well? That's going to be something. I think that's where
coach $10 million a year.
Yeah, that's where it is. So, you know, after this year, it goes down to 67. 2026 goes down to 48. So for me, the argument of, well, you know, they don't want to pay that. They're going to have to pay it no matter what. But like you said, I think that is very true too. You know, you look at the rest of the schedule, and A&M is off this weekend. You know, thank God for that for them. They can't lose the bye. They're going to play South Carolina at home. They've got to win that game. Like, you have to win that football game. You're going to go to Ole Miss. I don't think you win that game there. They're going to play Mississippi State. You better win that game because Mississippi State's not very good. You play Abilene Christian. If you lose that game, you fire him on the field. You Herm Edwards them. Then you go to LSU, where if that game was in College Station, I think that's one of the big reasons they won that game last year. Going to Baton Rouge, where a chance for LSU to clinch a spot in the SEC title game potentially. All of these things said, you could say there's potentially at least 2 more losses if you feel comfortable penciling in Ole Miss and LSU.
I don't think you can fire him this year, and he's got a really good argument with Connor Wegman going down because this offense took a major step back going from Wegman to Max Johnson. Connor Wegman's just a dynamic playmaker at quarterback, fearless, pinpoint accurate, and it shocked me. I think it shocked all of us how much better Connor Wegman is than Max Johnson. So that's going to buy him at least another season. But I don't know that they're going to pay him and pay another coach $10 million a year.
I will say this. I think they got the pockets for it. They've got the pockets for it. Can they stomach it? That's going to be the big thing.
About everybody has the money to do it, but it's a matter of will they do it.
Auburn they're paying 3 coaches currently, right? Is that correct?
That's standard operating procedures at Auburn.
Yeah. It's just another day. It's just a Tuesday. It's just a Tuesday on the plains. No, it's going to be interesting.
Still getting paid. He just got a raise from UCF. Brian Harsin's down somewhere, probably still in Mexico, hanging out with his wife.
He's in Cancun with Braves.
And paying Hugh Freeze to get beat by 30, but it's year 1.
It's your own. Will is ecstatic. Will is really pumped to do the show tomorrow. Let's move on to the next one here. Is Jimbo Fisher on the hot seat? We go to the next topic here. Storylines coming out of week number 7. Can Georgia's offense survive without Brock Bowers? I think it's a very interesting question, Ralph. I'll go with you first. From what we understand about Brock Bowers, and I know Dr. Bob talked a little bit about this, you know, a lot of different people have said, is this a guy that will try to come back? I think he will. Like, I think if Georgia is in a position to make the college football playoff, he's going to come back. If Georgia is just going to random bowl game 7, they're not going to. Like, if Georgia is in a spot to go to the college football playoff, I think he comes back to play. That being said, Ralph, your thoughts. In the meantime, they've got to navigate a schedule, Ralph. They've got to go to Tennessee. We talked about that. They got to play Florida, what I think is going to be a physical game and a great atmosphere. They got to play Ole Miss at home. You know, and then they got a couple cupcakes after that as well. That being said, what do we do here? Like, if you're Georgia and you sit here and say offensively, I don't think it's a question if you have the weapons. It's more of, can they step up? Like, can the guys and the talent of the roster step up?
I think the number one, answer to that is Oscar Delp, the backup tight end, the other guy who plays just as much as he does, who's showing out a lot in these games. Doesn't get nearly the passes thrown to him as much as Brock Bowers does, but he can play. I mean, he's a very talented tight end. He's athletic. He's a little taller, I'm pretty sure. I think isn't he like 6'6", I think?
I think so. A little lean.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taller and a little leaner.
Yeah. But, you got to find ways to dish out the,
Yes,
you got to dish out. You got to dish out all the ability that Brock Bowers has. You got to find a way to. I mean, you can't just expect one person to step up. You got to use multiple guys. Ladd McConkey's really hadn't played much this year because of his injury. When he gets fully healthy, would he be able to step up, take a big part of that? Oscar Delp, obviously, Rod Thomas, Dominic Lovett. I mean, all these guys have got to step up and make plays for this offense. Obviously, in your run game. Your run game's been it's a shocking run game that we have not seen out of Georgia this year. Just no one really stepped up to be the number one running back. It's not your normal Georgia team that we're used to. So without Brock Bowers, where do you go from here? I think you have to just dish out everything. Find guys who can step up. So this week in practice is a big one for Georgia. Who can step up for 19? Who can step up and who can be this guy we can get the ball to when we're down a score or we need to go downfield and score quick. You go back. I know I don't want to talk about it, Will. I'm sorry. We go back to the Auburn game. If there was no Brock Bowers in that game, I'm pretty sure Auburn wins that game. I 100% believe that.
He's been such a big part, right? And we mentioned Oscar Delp. Delp 6'5", 245. Bowers 6'4", 240. Listed on Georgia's roster. So, with what Georgia's going to do, Oscar Delp's a really, really good weapon. They've also got a guy in Lawson Lucky, who's another freshman as well, that I think is really, really good. I think you've got to get guys like Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett more involved. Pierce Spurlin, another guy.
6'7".
Yeah, it's just
another freak in that tight end.
It's tight end you. I mean, it's just it's ungodly what they're able to grow over there.
Hold on now. Hold on. Watch it. Iowa has something to say about that.
Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't get mad on this show. I could care less what our Iowa does. Outside of Caitlin Clark, nothing's interesting in that entire program.
I'm not talking about now, but tight end you is Iowa. What they put out.
Correct.
I mean, sure, you can be entitled to your opinion. I mean, just call me when they win something in a game, and they do something.
You said tight end you.
Dude, I'm going to be honest. I could absolutely care less what Iowa does. It's one of the more you just absolutely fire. And I think it's because of my hatred for Luka Garza. But, I absolutely hate Iowa. And I think I think Iowa's terrible for college football. Like, I'll just say, I think it's terrible for college football. The model that they put out there.
Fire the coach.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry about that.
Fire the school into the sun.
You got to just move on to the next topic. Can they survive? Yeah, they've got 17 5-stars everyone on the roster. They're going to be okay. Like, I mean, yes, is Brock Bowers really good? Yeah. Is he one of the best players in college football? Yeah. Is he one of the best non-quarterbacks in college football? Yes. If Georgia can't, I'll say this, if Georgia cannot win the rest of their schedule without Brock Bowers, then they're not the number one team in the country, and they're not as good as we think they are. And I think we're going to have to see some things step up. Ra Thomas is going to be one of those guys. Dominic Lovett. I'm going to tell you right now, Ladd McConkey is not 100% healthy in any sense. He is on a pitch count the rest of the season. They are not going to use him. Thank you, Dr. Bob. I was a joke. They shouldn't be playing football.
That's beautiful.
I love that. God, I mean, it's like watching Georgia Tech under Jeff Sims. That's what that's like watching. It's just awful. Yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, put Jeff Collins, Brian Harsin on the same staff together, and let's watch that. That's what it's like watching Iowa football. That being said, just please move on this storyline. Has Beaver Ball run its course? I don't ever want to talk about that again. Ever mention Iowa on this podcast ever again. Has Beaver Ball run its course? Let's be honest. It's a disappointing season so far for South Carolina fans. They wanted to be in a better position. Will, they are brutal up front. And I know you picked South Carolina to win this game. You thought coming out, they'd play a little more physical. I'm going to say this. I feel bad for Spencer Rattler. He's playing well. Like, the last play aside that he was, he threw the pick and everything, it kind of feels like if he doesn't play well, they're just feeble. Like, they're just terrible. They lost a lot in the portal. But, this whole idea of Beamer ball being able to capitalize on so many different, kind of weird things throughout a game, yes, you have to be able to do that to be a good football team. But they've got to improve the talent on this roster dramatically, I think, because that's going to grow old, especially when you lose to a team 2 years in a row that you kind of felt like you should have beaten Florida.
Yeah, I mean, they were decimated by the portal. And they're really young up front on that offensive line. I've got the schedule pulled up, and there's a number of true freshmen on this roster. I don't know the roster well enough to know who starts and who doesn't, but I know that they're very young up front. They're bad up front. We got to ask the question: what is Beamer ball? I mean, we're kind of throwing Beamer ball was obviously.
So I mean, it is this. Yeah. So I mean,
winning with defense and special teams at Virginia Tech. That's Beamer ball. Is that? I don't think that's Shane Beamer ball.
No,
at all.
I would say Shane Beamer ball so far this season, or so far in his tenure, has been opportunistic teams that take advantage. Yeah, and so, but you can't rely on that. Like you can't. They've got to. That's why I said they got to build up the talent on this roster.
Yeah, it'll come for them. I mean, and it's going to start up front. That offensive line's got to get better. I think he's built a pretty decent program over there. I mean, you talk opportunistic. They're going to have to be opportunistic in every sense of the word. They're number 2 in their state, still behind Clemson. But you can pluck guys out of the portal from Clemson, from Georgia, from Tennessee, from Missouri, the teams you're playing against every year. You can pluck some players and build up to those teams' level and get there. But yeah, Jonesy says it. The cardinal sin, blaming his players. He's got to stop doing that. If he won't stop doing that, he's got another year at most.
Yeah.
That's really bad. And I've been saving this. I almost said it earlier. But losing at home to Florida in Cocktober, that's a fireable offense.
It is. It is.
I can't even get it out.
I'll also say this too. I didn't think we would reach a point where we're talking about in the first 3 seasons of what he's able to do, or the first couple seasons. You start to look at the record, and it's eerily similar to Will Muschamp's tenure as the head coach at South Carolina. It's eerily similar. Now it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
You know how I feel about Will Muschamp, my doppelganger. You know how I feel about my doppelganger.
Beamer is now 17-15 at South Carolina. He's got back-to-back road games at Missouri, at A&M. I mean, I don't know. I think South Carolina is staring a 6-6 or worse season right in the face. That's what I think.
I think you still be patient with Beamer. If you want to compare him to Muschamp, Muschamp had like the backwards career path. His first head coaching job was at Florida, a marquee program, and then South Carolina, and now back to being a DC. Beamer was not a head coach. He wasn't even a coordinator before getting this job. He was just the tight ends coach at Oklahoma. So, and South Carolina, I think, is a good place to be patient with a guy. Like I say, if they can pluck guys in the portal, if he can getting roasted in the comments.
Yeah.
If you can keep being opportunistic, hit well in the portal, recruit as good as you can, which South Carolina's recruited really well in the past. It was Steve Spurrier. Will Muschamp recruited really well there. You can definitely win at South Carolina. Can you win national championship? Maybe not, but you can still be successful. But I think you stay patient with Shane Beamer at least another couple seasons.
Yeah, and they've got a sneaky young talent on this team too. Great, Pup Howard is the linebacker that they really, really like. Former 4-star Nick Harbor, who I don't know if you guys saw this kid playing. I mean, he's an absolute force. And then they've got I think his name's Dylan Stewart. I got his recruiting class picked up right there. Yeah, Dylan Stewart, the 5-star edge out of Washington D.C., who's committed, top 20 player in the country per 24/7. So I mean, they're trending upward. Beamer has made South Carolina fun. It's just you got to get the results, because I think that we've all seen programs that, yes, there's a lot of excitement, the social media, all this kind of stuff, but you got to win football games. I think next year is a pivotal year in the sense of, being comfortable into, finding that identity as a team as well. So,
and I think that's going to be at the quarterback position, because you're going to lose Spencer Rattler. Is it Luke Doty? He'll be back. Is it Tanner Bailey? going to step up I think he'll be a redshirt freshman.
I'll throw up if it's Luke Doty, by the way.
They've got another freshman quarterback, Lenore Sellers. One of those guys got to step up.
Lenore Sellers is a freak, and he decided to go to South Carolina over Georgia Tech late in the cycle last year, so that's another loss for the Jacket fans. Going to be very, very interesting. Ralph, your thoughts on this?
If he goes Luke Doughty, he's punting.
I'm going to say one thing, and this will go off what Dr. Bob had to say about Graham Mertz. We have talked about how we're talking about Beamer ball, and that loss to Florida hurts. But Graham Mertz is playing one of the best football right now. He's third in the country in completion percentage. Is Florida really that bad to lose to, though, if they're playing this well?
Yes.
I don't know.
What are his air yards on his throws? They got to be less than 5 yards. They don't throw the ball down the field.
9 yards per pass.
Per
game.
Per pass or per attempt?
Per attempt.
Sorry.
So that'll be something interesting to watch. We don't have our PFF pulled up. That's the problem.
My apologies.
I want to see his air yards.
I don't think it's run his course. I still think he's got some time there. They don't really have all the answers they need on the offensive line. They're broken up front. You got to get some guys in there to fill in those holes. And I think you give him a few more years. I don't think it's time to say. I'm
not saying in the sense that they should fire him. I'm saying the idea of just being opportunistic. You can't do that. Like I would say the same exact thing for Georgia Tech. Like you have to at some point play consistent football and have an identity. You can't just live in this sphere of we're going to lose to Bowling Green and then we're going to beat Miami on a crazy play. Like you can't be take advantage of one of the craziest home atmospheres and beat a Tennessee team when their quarterback tears his ACL that you were going to win anyways. I'll say it. You were going to win that game anyways. And then lose, to these teams and just not even look competitive. Like they have to find some type of identity. That's I guess what I mean.
I agree with that. And I don't know. I hate that we're using Beamer ball. I hate that we're using that for Shane Beamer because it's not fair to him. His dad built such a legacy at Virginia Tech. It's not fair to say it's Beamer ball. It's not because it's not what Frank Beamer was doing there. Frank Beamer was the best defensive minded coach in all time. So this is something I just wanted to say out there. It's just I don't think it's time to say anything. I think we should just get rid of Beamer ball in general for him because it's not fair to him.
Well, it's not what he does. It's not how.
Right. He's not a defensive minded coach. Really. Yeah. He's not like a. And I know we're just using this term just for Beamer ball. We could just say it's Beamer ran his course there, but I think I see all the time on ESPN and Twitter and all that stuff. So
I don't watch ESPN, but yeah,
I don't watch them either after what I watched on Friday happened. So
MS ESPN.
Yeah, it's terrible. It is what it is.
I have no clue what you are talking about. Even keep going.
You didn't know, but you didn't see the high school game. What happened with the Buford Mill Creek game?
Yeah,
they cut it off for NBA preseason.
Bryce had to babysit all weekend.
Yeah. Anyways, just keep rolling.
I'm good.
All right, go to the next one. Please go to the next one. Go to the next one. All right, last one here. We're gonna wrap this segment up here. Just a brutally long show tonight. Is Alabama still a title contender? I think this is a fair question to ask. As much as Alabama has not looked like Alabama this year, I think we can say no one has really looked like Alabama outside of a team like Georgia over the past, several years. That's just how elite Alabama has been. They've just been in a class of their own. But I think Jonesy's talking about this. Yes, until they're not. I kind of agree with that. Like, I just don't think you can discount Alabama just right now. Like, until they potentially lose this weekend against Tennessee or they potentially lose against LSU, like, they're going to be a part of the conversation going forward, especially if they get to Atlanta. So I don't know. Are they still a title contender? I think they're a playoff contender just based on, what we're talking about right now. I think that's where I would sit. Will, your thoughts?
My question would be why are they part of the conversation? This is not a national championship caliber team.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. I think they've got a national championship caliber defense, but not as a whole team. This offense, they're not gonna be able to score. You look at the teams around them in the AP. Oregon State 6-1, North Carolina 6-0. North Carolina is still number 10 behind Texas and Oregon. I don't agree with that. I don't think Alabama's a title contender. They're an SEC title contender, but I don't think this team can win a national championship. I don't. But not to say that they won't, because you can definitely, even in 2023 in college football, you can win games with defense and running the ball and ball control. I mean, Alabama's doing it this year. Ohio State's doing it this year. Oklahoma, not really. They air it out. But Penn State kind of sort of with Drew Aller. I mean, he throws a ton, but they run the ball really well and play really good defense. So they can do it. I don't think they're a title contender. I don't like the word. I don't think we should be talking about them like this.
Well, that's why it's posed as a question. It's not. I'm not saying they are.
I think don't even ask the question. They shouldn't even be ranked.
Question. Yeah,
it shouldn't be ranked.
They don't play nobody, Paul. Look, are they a title contender? I don't think so. I think that I will just say this. I carefully examine Alabama. I just don't care. I don't care how bad they've looked. It just feels like Alabama's one of those programs. Maybe it's recency bias. I wouldn't even call it recency bias. I would call it past decade bias. Like, just they have the proof for them is until they're not out of it until they're absolutely freaking out of it. So that's kind of where I sit with this. Now, well, I agree. I don't think they can win a national championship. I think that Jalen Milroe is great at throwing the deep ball and is average to below average in about everything else that we talk about. When we talk about throwing the football, but it's going to be very interesting. Ralph, your thoughts on how do you feel about this Alabama team kind of rolling into the back half of their schedule? And it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to say just a few things. I never doubt Saban. I've learned that from the past. You should never doubt Saban out. Secondly, I just don't know if they have the right quarterback for this. I just don't think going forward that Milroe's their answer to even push them toward a title in the first place. I like, Ty Simpson in the beginning of the season. I thought he'd probably be, at this point, would step in to be the starting job. Obviously, we hadn't seen him play since South Florida. So, I don't know. I mean, they're a very – this offensive line looks terrible. They gave up 5 sacks on Saturday. Yeah, that's just not what Alabama's used to seeing. So no, they're not. I don't think this is not the team that everyone thought Alabama was going to be. A lot of people were saying Alabama was going to be this is the bounce back year. They might go undefeated. I just don't see it. This is not the team that I was expecting to see this year for them.
Yeah, the problems at quarterback are just too much. I think the lack of a dynamic threat and consistent threat at the quarterback position. I agree with Mr. Singh down there. I think that they're a top 20 program. I just don't think that. I think they're in that tier 2 when you talk about teams as far as title contention. They're a couple pieces away because, like you said, Will, that is a championship level defense, and that's why I'm really excited to watch them play LSU. Championship level offense against championship level defense, and then whatever the heck's going to happen on the other side of the ball is probably going to decide it. It's going to be really, really interesting to watch. We're going to take one more break. Long show tonight. We're going to get into our top 4, and then we'll be out for tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. 30 more seconds, and we'll be back right here.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell. Titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
Make sure to use code Bryce Koon, 10% off your order for Dr. Squatch. Just got in their best scents they've got, and man, it's fantastic. It's some good stuff. They also, you can buy those at Walmart or wherever big box store that you want to as well. But we encourage you to use that code. Helps out the show and allows us to keep doing this. For as long as we're going to do it. We'll see if we do it after this show. I'm not sure. That being said, let's get into our top 4, final segment of tonight's show. Will, we're going to roll with you first. I know this is out of order. Will, tell me your top 4. Ralph has revealed it. And you walk me through your decision-making of why do you feel like these are the best 4 teams in the country?
Georgia, you look at what they've done. I said it after the Auburn game. I think they needed to go on the road and figure out who they are. They got off to a slow start against Vanderbilt, but I mean, you never felt after that first quarter that they didn't have full control of that game. Interesting to see how they look without Brock Bowers. They've got 2 weeks to try to figure that out before they play Florida. I got Georgia at the top. Number 2, Washington. They beat a top 10 team at home in a close game, and I think Washington is a complete team, more of a complete team than I thought they were. The number 2, Florida State at number 3. I'm not discounting that LSU win. I'm not discounting them going on the road beating Clemson. They handled a pretty good Syracuse team, made them look like a not so good team. But I think, Florida State hasn't looked as explosive offensively as they would like to and as I would like to see them. So I put Washington ahead of them. And number 4, Penn State. I have Penn State over Ohio State. They'll be playing this weekend. Mainly because Penn State offensively, I think, is much more explosive. I think they're a lot better offense than Ohio State. Ohio State looked good against Purdue, but it was Purdue. They should beat them 41-7. Kyle McCord, he's going to really have to step up if Ohio State wants to beat Michigan and beat. I just realized I didn't have Michigan in my top 4. That's funny. If they want to beat Michigan, if they want to win the Big Ten and make the playoff, Penn State at 4. I'm really high on Penn State. I think Penn State's really, really good, and they thumped Tyson Pomachan this weekend 63-0. So I'll slot them ahead of Michigan this week.
It's Pumachan. It's the Puma. Whatever. It's Tyson Pumachan. You don't remember the guy? You don't remember him just his name continuously being called on the speakers in Jordan Air?
I wasn't there.
Oh, I didn't know.
There's not a U in his name.
It's actually an H, and we don't know why. For Mama Chan. That being said, I'm gonna roll with Ralph's. You roll with yours because you and I are a little bit similar in this sense. We have a new number 1.
I'm gonna throw my comment up there, also with it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Show your comment.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw this one first.
Okay.
So I have Michigan number 1, and the main reason why I have number 1, and I'm throwing a comment up from good old Jackson Gordy here. I agree. You can't expect them to be number 1 team if they're beating Vanderbilt by this much. This is a team that should be beating everyone by a lot more. This was a terrible looking Georgia performance in my opinion. You didn't play very well. You didn't play to your standard. You're playing on the road in the crappiest stadium right now. They have construction work going on in both sides of the end zone. It is horrendous watching this right now. I don't see how you focus playing a game when that's going on in the background. But back to my top 4, I have Michigan 1 because they handle business against the teams that they should handle business against. You go out and play Indiana, you gave up 1 touchdown, then you scored 7 touchdowns after that. That's how you beat the crappy teams. That's how you should handle business, no matter who it is. I got Georgia at 2 because they're still Georgia. I mean, look, I know what I just said, but they're still number 2. They're still undefeated. They're very good. They're going to get better. Hopefully, Brock Bowers gets back later in the season for them for a playoff run. Who knows? Washington at 3. Obviously, the win against Oregon is huge for them. It pushes them forward to 3 over Ohio State. And Ohio State at 4. My 4 is it might just keep rotating out of 4. I mean, honestly, I just don't have a solid 4 right now. Penn State's up there with them. I still got Florida State up there at 4. It's just it's a 4 is just a rotating team for me right now. So I just don't think there's a true top 4. I feel like there's a true top 3 though.
I just made a last second change, Ralph. We can throw mine up there now. I'm going to throw mine out here. I kept Georgia 1. I had Michigan flipped here.
You were right.
I had Michigan flipped, and I think Jackson Gordy's argument just turned me the other way. I do. Georgia 1, Michigan 2, 3. What'd you say?
I was hoping we weren't going to discuss that comment.
1, Georgia, 2, Michigan, 3, Washington, 4, Florida State. The reason I say this is I still think that Georgia is the best team in the country in the sense of just winning football games. To the comment of they only beat them 37-20, and look, it's still college football. There are still teams that are going to try to beat you. You're not going to kind of. I think the idea that they need to go and just beat everybody 42-10 is just absurd. Like it is, and this is a different team than last year. It's not the same group of guys, not the same, just like last year's group was not the same group the year before. That being said, I do think Georgia is number one because they have gone into tough environments. They've gone into an Auburn game and they were able to win, regardless if you think Auburn's awful or not, it's still an environment. And Will would say this too. Auburn plays, I would say if Auburn is a C- team right now, Auburn plays at about a B level or B+ level when they're playing at home in big game environments. You could put their ranking up maybe 15 to 20 more spots when they're playing at home. It's just a different thing. If you haven't been a part of it, then I don't think you can understand that if you haven't been a part of an Auburn game. So I think that Georgia is just kind of taking care of business. I'm not saying that we should say they're an elite team because they beat Kentucky 51-13 or whatever the final score to that game was. I think they're just a good football team, and they're just finding ways to win, and they're just building. Like being the number one team in the country, and Kirby Smart said this, it doesn't mean a lot right now. Like you want to be number one at the end, and they understand what that means. I got Michigan number two. I mean, they still have not played anybody. For me, I think that they are a really, really good team, though, and it's going to be interesting and to see when they get into contest. They play Penn State this weekend, correct? Or no, they play Michigan. They still play nobody. I mean, they're going to play Michigan State this weekend. That program's in shambles. So we'll kind of see the back half of their schedule, but I do think it's a very, very good football team. This is, for me, 3 and 4. I think Washington did enough for me to push themselves into this top 4 after what they were able to do. I know we'd all been kind of teetering on 4, Washington, Oregon, where they ranked in this right now. You guys talked about this earlier. Washington, to me, is the lead horse, in this sense of the Pac-12 race. And then once again, Florida State, I've got them number 4. I think they have the entire recipe, all the ingredients to win a national title. They have people just have been kind of like not talking about them because they had their marquee wins in the first 4 weeks of the season. So they really, they've just been kind of taking care of business. Beat an LSU team. That's going to be a fun one. That's going to be a good game. They beat an LSU team that's going to, that win continues to look better and better, especially if LSU can find a way to get to the SEC championship. They beat a Clemson team there that's never going to be easy. They did something. I just think it's hilarious when people try to come on here or any other show or thing, and they try to continuously move the goalpost back on really good football teams and say, well, they can't do this or they hadn't done this. It's like, what else do you want them to do? This isn't a video game where you just get to, edit the rosters and you can just beat somebody 65-0. Like, these are really good football teams. I'll tell you one thing. If this is the Final Four, I don't know who wins the national championship. Like, I think that it would be one of the most even Final Fours, just mine in particular. Like, that would be kind of one of the most even Final Fours we could possibly see with what we know through 7 weeks. So, obviously, it'll be very, very interesting as well. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Been a fantastic show to have you along with us for a little, almost 90-minute show tonight. I got to get off and tell my wife good night, before we hop on Farming Simulator. So, that being said, Will Manis, Ralph Lear. My name is Bryce Koon. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We're going to have a show with Will tomorrow kind of talking about not necessarily so much of what happened, a reaction, but more of what is Auburn got to do going forward.
If you want to see my tears, tune in.
Yeah, Wednesday night we're going to be right back. Week 8 college football preview, a lot of fun games, the big slate there as well. And then for Georgia Tech fans on Thursday evening, we're going to be previewing that game against Boston College. That I caution you, the spread has gone up to, I believe, from 4.5 to 5, and there's a lot of talk that it might go up to 6.5. I don't think this game is as shoo-in as people think. Boston College is it's a pretty solid football team, and once again, you haven't done anything to make me feel like you can confidently go anywhere and beat anybody. We're going to talk about that on Thursday night. And we'll catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.